Hi, library friends. I want to start today by saying thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today at this session of Family Story Times on race and diversity. And thank you to everybody who has posted comments and sent me personal messages of appreciation for this program, because it really makes me feel good to know that we are helping you to have some thoughtful conversations in your homes, that you are sharing your stories with each other, you're talking about race, you're talking about things that are going on in this world, and that's fantastic. Because reading stories, reading books is just a wonderful way to introduce new topics, sometimes difficult ones, that you would not naturally talk about with your family. And so that's what we're all about. That's what we're going to do today. I think I should introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. I'm Sira Williams. I'm the children's librarian here at the Red Bank Public Library in Red Bank, New Jersey. So I'm really glad you're here. I want to start the program with a little peace and love. I usually show my sign, peace and love, at the end of the program, but I have something really special to show you at the end of this program today. So we're going to start with peace and love. And what is wrong with that? We could all use it, and it'll just put us in the right mindset for our program today, because I am going to read you a great book. It's called The Undefeated by Kwame Alexander and Kadir Nelson. This is an award-winning book. Both the author and the illustrator have been recognized for their work here, and they have excellent bodies of work that you should check out separately. But before I crack this open, I want to make sure that you understand this word, undefeated. So, do you follow sports? Do you play on a team? If so, then you definitely know the word undefeated, because it's like the ultimate. For a team to be undefeated, that means you can't lose. That means you never get beat. And how great is that? But I want you to think about, just because you always win in the end doesn't mean that there aren't times when you're losing during the game. There can be times when the other team scores on you, right? But you don't let that get you down. You have to dig deep, you got to work hard, and you have to make a comeback so that you can stay undefeated. So that's what that word is referring to. But I think the author was inspired to title the book The Undefeated by a quote that is from Maya Angelou, who was another famous author, and this is what she said. She said, "You may encounter defeats, but you must not be defeated." So what she means by that is, outside of sports, just as people, sometimes we can feel defeated. We can feel discouraged, like nothing's going our way, like nobody likes us, like we can't do anything right. And you just feel down on yourself. It's not a good feeling. But what she's saying is, don't be defeated by that. Don't let that keep you down. She said it may even be necessary to encounter the defeat so that we can know who we are, so that we can see, oh, that happened and I rose. That means I got up. I did get knocked down flat in front of the whole world, and I rose. I didn't run away. I rose right where I'd been knocked down. So that's her quote, and it's inspirational, because what it's saying is, even though you do have hard times, if you can push on from that and get up and try again, then you know you can do that the next time you have hard times, right? And if you keep rising and keep rising and keep rising, you can't be defeated. You just can't. And so I think that's what the author had in his mind as he wrote this poem. This is a poem. It's not like a full story. And it's based on Black history. So I want you to pay close attention to it. There's lots of good vocabulary words in here. There's lots of references to historical figures and events. So pay attention. The older you are, it might be easier to understand, but we're going to talk a lot about it after I read it. And I definitely want you to pay attention to the pictures, because just looking at the cover, you can tell how bold and powerful and really brilliant these illustrations are. And some of these people are gonna look like they're looking right at you. All right, let me read this book, The Undefeated. I gotta stand up, I think, so you can hear me and see me. All right. This is for the unforgettable, the swift and sweet ones who hurdled history and opened a world of possible. The ones who survived America by any means necessary. And the ones who didn't. This is for the undeniable, the ones who scored with chains on one hand and faith in the other. This is for the unflappable, the sophisticated ones who box adversity and tackle vision. Who shine their light for the world to see and don't stop till the break of dawn. This is for the unafraid, the audacious ones who carry the red, white, and weary blues on the battlefield to save an imperfect union. The righteous marching ones who sang, "We shall not be moved because Black lives matter." This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unlimited, the unstoppable ones, the dreamers and doers who swim across the big sea of our imagination and show us the majestic shores of the promised land. The Wilma Rudolphs, the Muhammad Alis, the Althea Gibsons, the Jesse Owenses, the Jordans and the LeBrons, the Serenas and the Cheryls, the Reese Whitleys, and the undiscovered. This is for the unbelievable, the wee real cool ones. This is for the unbending, the black as the night is beautiful ones. This is for the underdogs and the uncertain, the unspoken, but no longer untitled. This is for the undefeated. This is for you. And you, and you. This is for us. What did you think of that? Did you notice all of the words in the book that started with un? Like undefeated? There was, let's see, undeniable, unflappable, unafraid, unspeakable, unbelievable, and more and more and more. Maybe at home you can talk about what happens to a word when you put that un prefix in front of it, because it just changes the meaning and flips it right around. It's pretty cool. But I also want to find out, did you recognize anybody in this book? Who did you see in those amazing illustrations? Did you see Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Because we've talked about him in other story times. Did you see any sports figures that you recognized? I'm sure you saw LeBron and Michael Jordan and Serena. Maybe you recognized Muhammad Ali. Did you recognize any of the artists or entertainers or writers or musicians? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to talk about it because I want us to understand why the author chose those people to be in this book. What about them makes them undefeated? Well, we've been talking a lot about history and how we need to learn all of the stories that make up our history in America. And we don't always learn them in school. So we've also talked about how we're all the same. Even though we look different on the outside, on the inside we're all the same, and that we should treat each other equally, right? But that hasn't been the case throughout history. So these peoples are examples of the struggles and overcoming of the struggles of Black people, and that's why they're undefeated. So this is really a celebration of the strength and courage and perseverance of African Americans to just survive our history in this country. And let's talk about some of the things that are in this book. So as a people, African Americans are undefeated because we survived this institution of slavery. When you look at this picture, it just looks like a design from way back here. But when you look up close, do you see that those are people? Those are slaves. And this is how they were packed onto ships and brought against their will from Africa to America to work as slaves. And so for generations upon generations to survive that brutal institution of slavery and to keep hope alive that one day they might be free, or their children or their children's children might be free. We've talked about this, the strength they had in mind and body and spirit to survive that and reach that point of freedom makes them undefeatable, right? That's amazing. And what about, let's see what else is in here. What about the writers and the authors and the intellectuals and the scientists and inventors that are in here? Look, I forgot to tell you. There's Maya Angelou when she was young, the woman who read that quote, said the quote that I read. But these people are undefeated because they refused to be set back by laws and systems of oppression that really tried to restrict the rights of Black people to learn to read and write and get an education. And they blew past those barriers, and they contributed so much to our culture and to the world. And to do that makes them undefeated, right? What about the soldiers? Let me find the soldier. The soldiers who fought for this country and sacrificed their lives for the ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and justice for all. When that word all did not include Black people, these soldiers did not enjoy any of those freedoms in America. And yet they fought and died for our country. That makes them undefeated, right? How about the amazing athletes? The athletes that are pictured here, a lot of them you recognized, but there's so many more who excelled. They competed, they trained, they became champions of the world. And they did that at a time when people argued that Black bodies were inferior to white bodies. That Blacks could not do everything that white people could do. And so they had to prove that wrong over and over and over again. And they're still doing it today. And for that, they're undefeated, right? What about the civil rights leaders? We've talked about them, Dr. Martin Luther King, and everybody who fought in the civil rights movements, in marches and protests and boycotts. And they led a movement for equal justice and equality. And they did that peacefully while they were opposed by people who used violence against them. And they did it for years and years and years. So the strength and courage and perseverance and faith that it took for them to do that and to come out on the other side victorious, they're undefeated, right? I do want to point out these unspeakable pages because there are innocent children and more innocent children and unarmed black men and women who have died throughout history because of racism. And the author calls that unspeakable. That means it's so bad we don't even really want to talk about it. But we need to talk about it. And for many, even today, that's the motivation to keep fighting for our rights, for equal justice and fairness in this country, because that just can't happen anymore. There's some terrible things going on even now, and we need to stop it. And so, lastly, I think this book is dedicated just to ordinary people like you and me, who just get up every day and try our best to be our best, to take care of ourselves and our families. And let me find that picture of these beautiful children. Because guess what? We're living through history right now. There's so many things going on in this world, and you know what they are. The COVID-19 pandemic, the fights for equal justice and against police brutality, the fights for immigration rights and environmental protections. There's just so many things for us to think about and be concerned about, but we're the ones who are here. It's our turn. These are the people from history, but it's our turn now to pick up their torch, to choose our battles, to use our voices, to shine our lights on the problems, and to make a difference. Do what we can to make a difference. And even if we have a hard time, even if we get knocked down, do not accept defeat. Do not accept defeat. That's our lesson from this book today. And that's for everybody. Okay? So what I want to tell you is that as I'm thinking about these programs and the books that I choose, I really have to think a lot. I read these books over and over again. I think about the lessons that I can draw from them, that I can share with you. And as I thought about this book and all the lessons that we've had up to now, I really was inspired to go somewhere and watch something. And that is, I went to the beach to watch a sunrise. And I really wanted to see the sunrise, and I want you to see it too, so I'm going to share it with you. And the reason why I wanted to see the sunrise is because we've been talking so much about our own light, the light inside of us, and shining our light, that I wanted to see the sun. That's the ultimate light of the world. And I wanted to see it poke up over the horizon. I wanted to see the sun rays stretch out and light up the darkness, and see them touch every corner of the world. When you think about it, every place on this planet is going to see this sun on this day. Whether you're in Africa or South America or Asia or the North Pole, we all share this sun, right? And then as I thought about that in the context of this book and the history that we just talked about, it occurred to me that this is true not just for today, but throughout all time. This is the same sun that shone upon those slave ships that carried those slaves from Africa to America over 400 years ago. That's amazing. This is the same sun that shined down on all those soldiers in all the wars. It's the same sun that warmed the backs of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and everybody in the civil rights movement as they marched for our rights. And just thinking about that made me say, like, wow, it's kind of mind-blowing. But it's great because knowing that the sun comes up every day throughout history makes me know that even if today is a bad day, Even if we're going through tough times right now, there will always be a tomorrow. There will always be a new day and a new chance to make a change. And that gives me hope. And I hope it gives you hope too. So have faith in yourselves, young people. Believe in yourselves. Believe in your families and your communities to bolster you and support you as you learn and grow and move through this world. Shine your light. Use your voice. And in your own way, whether it's big and bold and loud or quiet but powerful, be undeniable. Be unstoppable. Try to be unafraid, because you carry the legacy of the undefeated. Stay well, everybody. Enjoy your day. We'll see you next time. Peace.